you started this up again.
Oh, what, Shabbat dinner? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of... my parents came over a few weeks ago for Shabbat, and Ava really took to it.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Does that bother you?
No. I don't think so. I mean, I think it's been like 10 years since you've done this.
Yeah, well, you never really liked it.
You liked that I didn't like it.
That was a clip from the miniseries Scenes from a Marriage, starring Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain as a couple in the midst of a difficult separation. The show was developed, written, and directed by today's podcast guest, Hagai Levi. Like so much of his work, Scenes from a Marriage asks the viewer to empathize with two opposing sides of a conflict and overlaps a universal story about human connection with the specific contexts of its deeply nuanced characters. I'm Shana Hammerman, and this is Cite and Sound, the Stanford Jewish Studies podcast. Here we host conversations with scholars and artists as we explore Jewish scholarship, culture, and history. On today's episode, we welcome acclaimed television creator Hagai Levi, who is responsible for, in addition to Scenes from a Marriage, the award-winning HBO series In Treatment, B'Tipul in Israel, Our Boys, Hane'arim in Israel, and a new project called Eddie. Levi joins the Jewish Studies faculty director Vered Shemtov to explore how he approaches writing characters with empathy, television as its own kind of therapy, and the blurred lines between the political and the personal. And now, the conversation.
Hagai Levi, it's an honor for us to have you here at Stanford. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And it seems to me like it feels that it's not the first time you're here, even though it's the first time that you're here in person. Many years ago, we had one of our most successful events. It was a conversation between Yael Adaya and Irvin Yalom, and it was all about your series, B'Tipul, which is now celebrating 20 years, right?
Exactly. We are celebrating it back in Tel Aviv, or actually in a festival in the south of Israel. It's pretty much unbelievable. 20 years and 20 versions after. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't want to assume that everybody knows what we're talking about. Probably most people do, but not everybody. So maybe you can say a few words
please,
about it.
Of course, yeah. B'Tipul was born 25 years ago in Israel. It's a very simple concept. It's every episode is half an hour full treatment from the beginning to end. So it's a daily series. Every day comes another patient and returns every week. So if you have on Sunday, you have a woman who has relationship issues, she'll come every Sunday, and then it goes on for 10 weeks. On and on. On Fridays, the therapist itself goes to supervision, what we call, or therapy actually, to his old school also therapist. And then we understand more the behind the scene of all of the treatments. And of course, it's all connected to each other. In a way, he is the main character. Not only that he's there all the time, but his story is the main story of the series. The therapist, played by Asi Dayan, a very well-known figure in Israel in so many ways. He was a director, he was a writer, he was the son of a very important general, and notorious in any other way.
Some people might recognize it as In Treatment. It was sold, right, to American TV.
In Treatment was almost the first adaptation of B'Tipul. That's the original name. For some reason, they called it In Treatment and not In Therapy. I don't know why. Probably some PR person thought it's a good name. And yes, it's been very successful here in HBO. They did 3 seasons. I did only 2. After 2 seasons, I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. Every season is around 40 episodes. It's a lot. And even they did a 4 episode couple of years ago during COVID time. So, yeah. And then it's been done also in many, many other countries, in Italy, in France, in Argentina, in Canada, and yeah, everywhere.
And were you involved in any of these, or you
I
leave them
was
free?
I was involved in the places. I had to approve everyone, but I was really involved in some places where it was interesting for me to be involved, like Argentina. Argentina is a place where the rate of therapists per person is the highest in the world. So, and many Jews, psychologists, therapists moved to Argentina during the 30s. So it was a big thing. So I went there. Also the French one, which was really maybe the best adaptation. The Italian, because it's my nationality, I would say. My father came from Italy, so some of them.
Okay, interesting. I know you spoke with a lot of psychologists about this show. I heard some interviews and events.
Not so
Did you,
many.
yeah, well, there are a
Hmm.
few online.
Yeah, right.
Did you ever had a chance to be in touch with Ervin Yalom?
Erwin Yalom was in the first, very, very first presentation when I wrote it in 2021 or something. I said, "Listen, this is happening. We have the Sopranos, we have Erwin Yalom, we have this," and so it was kind of for me a tool to present that it becomes a main interest in society. And later on, when it all finished, I got this email from Erwin Yalom saying that he loved the series, and it was for me like, yeah, I still cherish it. I still keep it very close to my heart. It was like the final approval of the show. My initial motivation was actually because I was angry about the way that therapy was presented in cinema and in television. I mean, in Woody Allen's film, even in The Sopranos. My daughter she's watching now Sopranos, and I see again the therapy session, and they're bad. They're not good, and they are short. They are only a tool for the story. And I remember watching it and saying, it's not like that. And since it was something very fundamental to my life since the age of 17 on and on and on until today. So I really wanted to first to show how it is. I wouldn't say it was instead of, because I continued therapy all of that time, which was weird because I was sitting in the therapy and at the same time looking at it and taking ideas and look what's happening in order to write it. I went to study psychology when I was very, very young, when I was 17. Even before the army, I started to suffer from panic attack in early age, around 16, 17, and it was probably connected to the time where I left religion. So I went in order to understand myself or understand what's going on. But apparently it was quite the opposite, because as everyone who study medicine, you start to get old. All the illness, one after the other. So I was schizoid and paranoid and depressed. And I mean, I had all the mental illness day after day. So it was a very hard experience. I did finish the degree, but I left it and didn't want to come back to it. And I came back to it 10 years later to therapy, and came back to deal with it in treatment. Should we say in treatment? But people, yeah. When I make a series, I think I have some kind of a dialogue with certain people. I never bother myself with the question how many people are going to see my series, but who are the people who are going to see it. And for me, of course, I want it to succeed, but succession for me, is if it creates some kind of cultural impact somehow. And cultural impact, it's not about how many people watch it. It's different. And there are other elements who can create that. But anyway, when I have in mind this kind of dialogue with the viewers, it's always, it comes from something that I really don't understand enough, or I think haven't been acquired, or I need to understand it to the depths, you know. Many series did. I mean, Affair, for instance, is something you can find in every other series, but I couldn't find a series where trying really to analyze what's going on in an affair and make kind of an anatomy of an affair by itself, and not using an affair for other story. So that was the affair, you know. And the same therapy, you had all these therapy scenes in all these creations, like series, films, but it wasn't about that. And I wanted to do it about that. And then to give that to the audience, like to tell them, I kind of delved into it, and here is what I came with. I think the tagline for me was at some point, how does it happen that good people have an affair? That was for me the question. Like, you think of yourself as a good person and as a moral person, and you think of yourself that this is not going to happen to you, and then it happens. How could it happen? So that was for me the inquiry.
That was the question. That was
That was the question.
that was the thing you tried to
That was the
understand.
question. That was also on the like a headline on the page.
And do you try to understand it, or do you try just to open it up? You know, just to say, okay, it's not just a question, it's an inquiry, like you said. Here are the things you can think about, or you want to get to a point in which you say, okay, now I get it, and the viewer, can get it. What's your end point?
Yeah. I guess that if you have an answer, you don't have a series, right? Because then you can answer it in 5 minutes, and then it's to understand it, but to understand it means to the inquiry is the essence of it. Yeah, of course, I don't come with a solution. It's just to understand how could it happen, and what happened when it happens. You know, in
What
this
happens
case,
when it happens?
yeah,
Nice,
you
yeah.
know, what kind of things you tell yourself, what kind of justification you find, what do you have to lose? You're losing so many things. You're losing mainly, by the way, your self-perception as a good person, like when we come back to the beginning. So how are you willing to do that? Or you have justifications for that as well? So
An inquiry is not just an attempt to understand, but an ethical stand. Can you talk about balancing empathy and judgment on the screen? And maybe this could take us from the affair to your series, Our Boys.
yeah, I'll say two things. First of all, the fact that psychotherapy has no judgment at all, at a certain point in my life, became a very problematic thing for me. I kind of denounced psychology for a while because I felt that in a time when moral judgment is so needed, is psychotherapy becomes silent, you know. And if you come with something horrible that you do, and he will try to help you to understand why you did it, and he won't say nothing about that it's not good, because it doesn't deal with good and bad. For a long time, it was really a problem with psychotherapy that I had. And some of this criticism is in the heart of in treatment or people. Yeah. So, but we can talk about it later. Empathy for me is sometimes it's a problem because I cannot write a character whom I don't understand really, and whom I cannot imagine myself somehow in his shoes. So there are a lot of people who can write bad guys, you know, the villains. I cannot do that, and it's really limiting my work, because sometimes I develop a series with villain, and if I don't understand him or try to understand his psychological background and why he does what he does, and then he's not so much of a villain, and then maybe it's less appealing for a certain broadcasters, you know. So it was the same in Our Boys. Should I say something about Our
Yes, if
Boys?
you
Yeah,
don't mind,
Our
just a
Boys.
few.
Actually, Our Boys. I've been approached by HBO. It was 10 years ago, I think, less. 2015, because in 2014, a terrible thing happened in Jerusalem. It started when three Israeli kids, teenagers, were kidnapped by Hamas. The whole country were looking for them for 3-4 weeks, and then found their bodies. And the day after, another body was found of an Arab kid, the age of 16, beaten and burned to death. And it was clear that that was a revenge, some kind of revenge. So that happened in 2014. In 2015, the trial was going on in Israel. And I got a kind of proposal from HBO, from the guy who ran HBO by the time, to do a series about it. And
And the trial about what happened to
the
the
trial of the
boy,
kids.
not this, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well,
Yeah.
the people who killed the three boys are not with us anymore. They had their trial by just shot to death.
Yeah, no, just to clarify.
Yeah. So the series shows the inquiry, the investigation of finding who, it's like who done it, and then when we find them, the trial, and yeah. But for us, I did this series with Joseph Cedar and Taufik Abu Wail. One is Israeli and one is Palestinian. We were the three creators. And it was very interesting because this collaboration wasn't always easy, although we were friends, but it had a lot of conflicts, political conflicts during the work. But when we knew that we have a series when we watched a reconstruction of, do you say that? How do you say when a criminal tell what he did with cameras and everything? You know that in procedural reenactment. Thank you. Exactly. Reenactment. When the police take the person to the
The
crime
scene.
scene and then he speaks and he's. So we saw the reenactment of the younger guy of the three people who killed that Palestinian boy. And he tries to explain to the police what he did and what they did, and after 5 minutes you fall in love with him. You can't help it. He's heartbreaking. He's sweet. He doesn't understand what he did exactly and why he did that. And you see that in a way he's starting to use this interrogation to understand why he did it. And then we knew that we have a series because he became one of the main character, and to understand why he did it became the series. A big part of the series. So
Where the judgment comes in.
yeah,
Is there?
and then
I don't know.
and then of course, it's a very good question because when I talk about political conflicts that we had, it was hard to Taufik, to the Palestinian guy, to accept the way we dealt with that character and our empathy to it. And it was a fine line. We had to get to the last episode or to the last two episodes when the audience feel that he's guilty. And he's, by the way, he is guilty in murder. I mean, he didn't do it himself, but legally he's part of a murder. He's the only one who didn't get life sentence, but yes. So it was important for us to, and it was easy in that case because we had the court system who said he's guilty. So the judgment came from, yeah. But still, we wanted to understand him. So it's a big deal. It's a big difference between understanding and justifying, right? This is the area we play with.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And yeah, looking at it today, it feels like you captured exactly the story that anticipated, the violence that came after from all sides.
Remember that immediately after that, another consequence of this killing of the Palestinian boy, there was a war in Gaza,
Right.
Sukkot, in the same months, and a
Right.
kind of as a revenge.
A revenge war. Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely.
Okay. So in Hebrew, it was the boys. In English, it was our boys.
Yeah.
But maybe you could say something about the boys or our boys.
The name was very, very controversial. Of course, we chose the name knowing that it will be a controversy around it. In Hebrew, Hanearim was always connected to the three kids who were killed by Hamas, and everyone called them Hanearim. And there is also
Ne'arim meaning the boys.
the boys, and it's also has kind of biblical. It's part of some of the prayer you say every night. It's a very very loaded. And then but then again, when we started to work on it, we found out that everyone is boys. You know, it's like, yeah, there is this other kid, and there is the killers who are boys, and everyone around them. So it's a story about boys, and we call it the boys. In America, they had to call it Our Boys because there was another superhero series called The Boys, but it was bad enough, The Boys, for people who got offended by it. Maybe it's time to say that the Prime Minister himself say by the time you shouldn't watch this series, and that helped us a lot, of course, to get publicity. Yeah.
Let's talk about your new series, Eti. The series will soon air in Europe and the United States. You already screened it at the Venice Film Festival, and it's getting amazing reviews. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about it.
The new project it's a mini series called Eti, E-T-T-Y. It's the name of the heroine. Her name was Eti Hillesum. She was a Dutch young woman who wrote a diary in 1940s, 41, in Amsterdam. And in a way, it's about the last year of her life and what happened in that year. In every presentation of that project, I always the first sentence was, "This is not a Holocaust film. This is not a Holocaust series. This is not. It's something else." Because when you read the book, it's not read as a Holocaust book or something like that. It's read as a self-revelation, a story of a young woman, a lot of a very the very modern, ultra-modern, narcissistic, sexual, smart, neurotic woman, like in every big city in the world now. So it takes you like, I don't know, 30, 40 pages until you understand that, wait a minute, this is already in occupied Amsterdam by the Nazis. So that's the beginning. And then the series, in a way, tells the spiritual transformations that this woman went through, which in it she found kind of God, but it's a very specific God inside her. It's a very specific personal theology that for me it was eye-opening, and it in a way took me back to any kind of religiosity, because I came from religion family and I abandoned it like in a cut, and then I could come back to it somehow. Now, as a part of her insights and part of her spiritual growing, she decided to go to the camp on her own will to help the people. She felt that she had
The death camp.
not to the death camp in the beginning, to a transit camp in the Netherlands. They didn't know yet where they go from there, but they knew that no one came back. So she went there. She felt that, and she helped a lot of people as part of the Jewish Council or something like that, but that was very, very dangerous. And at a certain point, she went back to Amsterdam. Then she decided to go there knowing that it's very, very dangerous. She didn't want to die, but she knew she has to do that. And it's maybe a huge act of solidarity. She said, I'm not I'm not too vain for the fate of so many other people. I mean, I'm privileged. She could go to hiding. She could do many things, but she wouldn't like to use her privilege. So that's this is the whole series is about why she did that. But if I could say that in 1-2 words.
Is it also a story of taking charge of your destiny, or
It is
not at all?
definitely an agency, taking agency, but it was very, very clear that the right thing to do is not this in a way. The right thing to do was either to find a place in this Jewish council where if you were part of it, you were kind of protected, or to run away, or to many things, not this. So it's an agency, but an agency which only possible if you get to a point where you have such a strong personality and such a strong core in your personality, when you can say to yourself, I can lose everything, but I still have this me, this core.
Yeah.
And this is where that's the point where she got. So, and this is, I think, what is the secret of her, why she's so appealing to so many people, because regardless Holocaust, regardless everything, she just found autonomy. That's what I found in her. So,
Interesting. Didn't help. She did at the end die in Auschwitz.
She died in Auschwitz because at a certain point she lost her special status as worker, and they just put her on a train. Yeah. So, and only 40 years later, she left the diaries at a friend, and the friend tried for many years, but couldn't make it. And only in the 80s it was published, and then became kind of a cult book.
It's impossible not to make the comparison to Anne Frank, also from Amsterdam, but much younger.
Anne Frank became a symbol for many, many reasons, not necessarily because of her writing or because of her. There are many reasons why she became. And
we had a podcast on that question.
Oh, really?
Exactly. Yeah.
Why? Yeah. Etty Hill's became not necessarily a Holocaust symbol, but a spiritual symbol. And you can find her books in all those stores, bookstores around the Vatican, among martyrs,
Yeah.
Or you can find her books in a lot of the spiritual centers. This is her claim to fame, not necessarily the Holocaust is, yes, it was kind of accelerator for everything happened to her, but her inner development is the main thing.
So the inquiry is quite clear. It is interesting question. Why do you do that? Why do you make this decision?
Yeah.
But still, I assume that for you, there need to be something more in terms of how is this related to your here and now?
Yeah. I started to work on it 10 years ago, and every time it was postponed by another American series, like, The Affair and Since for Marriage, and there was a very specific time when I said, okay, I'm going to do it now. And that time was after October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly it was clear that I have to do it differently. Because what happened in October 7 and after that is that Holocaust images became real. I mean, I think everyone felt that all of the images we heard about from the Holocaust suddenly became real. I mean, I don't know, kids are hiding in a closet. This is an image we knew from the Holocaust, or a whole family. So it was very vivid image, Holocaust image. And then a couple of months later, the pictures came from Gaza, and then we had again Holocaust pictures, kids starving and so many people and a whole city ruined. So
And the hostages coming back, and there is
exactly
right comparison to the Holocaust survivor.
So it was clear in a way, and at the same time, the right wing started to rise in Europe, especially in Amsterdam, for instance. When I started working, there was a guy called Geert Wildert who became the biggest party in the Netherlands, which was pretty frightening or annoying or whatever. So everything felt that you cannot just do it as a historical period piece. So the way I did it is just make it more kind of contemporary. So, I mean, the story stays in 41 and the Nazis look like Nazis, but everything around it looks pretty modern. People wear jeans, so you can feel that you cannot exactly put the finger on where exactly is it, because you don't see iPhones and you don't see computers, but you feel that you're in modern time. And then you do whatever you do with this, but it makes you. I think it makes you feel that you could be there. You could have been there, and it's not like these people in black and white wearing hats and coats. No, it was people like us, and it could be people like us.
There's so much I want to ask you. There's so much you've done. And Scenes from a Married Life is one of, your extremely successful and celebrated series. But we're running out of time.
Oh, really?
And we always, as our last question, ask whoever comes to speak with us to read or share a text, Hebrew or Jewish text with us that is meaningful to the current moment in some way. And you chose something from Hanoch Levin. Part of it is because you're here for Hanoch Levin, for an event for the purchase of Hanoch Levin's archive. And you chose something from The Child Dreams, which is a dialogue between a mother and a skipper.
Yeah. I think it was my first encounter with Hanoch Levin because this specific play got a TV adaptation back there in the beginning of the 90s, and I watched it and I was shocked. So, yeah.
Would you like me to read the role of the mother and you read the
Yeah, that
skipper?
would be great. Yeah.
Do you want to give the
It's
listeners like a little bit of a background?
Yeah, it's a bit. First of all, it's interesting because it started as a play about the ship St. Louis in the 40s, so it was connected to the Holocaust. But then during the writing, during the drafts, it became totally abstract, which is what I tried to do in my last project. But still, it's about refugees who try to escape by some boat to a place where they're not in danger, and this is this mother trying to convince the captain of the ship to take her and the child into the ship. So,
Okay, so I'm starting. You know that if we stay here, we will die. Put yourself in our place for a moment.
why should I? I'm not you, and you don't interest me.
You must have children of your own.
2, and there was another one who died. She was 3. I mourned her deeply at the time. I saw that life after her death could not continue, but it did. I myself do not know how.
Think of her again and look at my child.
But tell me, it's bothering me. Why should my daughter die while your son lives? And where were you when she died? I didn't hear you crying out or praying then. You were copulating with your husband and drinking wine while my child was dying in my arms.
Yeah.
So,
We skipped a little, but
yeah, that's the essence of it, because in a way, it's the demand from a person to put his own sorrow aside and feel empathy to the other. There is this tendency to say, I had through the most horrible thing. Why shouldn't I be care about the other person suffer? And this is happening everywhere, and also in Israel, people went through the worst in October 7, and it's a huge demand to ask people to see the other's pain. But that's what makes us human beings. I feel the ability to go beyond personal suffering. Sometimes understand that the person we lost not coming back, and then see the other whom we may help to avoid this suffering that we've been through. So this is empathy, I guess. It could be one of the definitions of empathy. Radical empathy, of course. The same for Etty Hillesum, who in the middle of the Holocaust refused totally to hate the German, even said that she feels so much empathy for the children who lost their fathers, German fathers in the war. So we don't have to go all the way to that point, but this radical empathy, I think, is something that the world needs, we need, area needs here in America. So, yeah.
So we went a full circle. We started with questions of empathy and judgment
Yeah.
and understanding. And I
Yeah.
think we're ending with that too, but less on the personal level and more on the bigger political scene.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to call it even political. It's just human,
Human scene. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
It was my pleasure too.
Today's episode was produced by me, Shayna Hammerman, with help from Eva Clem. Sound editing and design by Romy Kiorian. Original music is by Jeremiah Lockwood. Cite and Sound is a production of the Toby Center for Jewish Studies at Stanford.
Stanford University.